In the US, the parents of a Muslim American soldier killed in Iraq are asking Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump to show some empathy. Speaking at last week's Democratic convention, Kaiser Khan, the soldier's father, criticized Trump for his proposed ban on Muslims entering the US. Khan questioned whether Trump had ever read the Constitution. Trump hit back, questioning Mrs. Khan's silence at the event, implying that she was not allowed to speak because she's a Muslim. But just a short time ago, Kaiser Khan did speak to CNN. Take a listen.
I'm so happy to be saying that I am a Muslim woman, and Muslim women have all the rights in the world. In eyes of God, we are equal to our husbands. We are equal, and we are number one in the household, in my family, in my culture, in my community.
Trump doesn't seem willing to let the controversy die down, even tweeting his reaction during that interview. He said, "Mr. Khan doesn't know me, viciously attacked me from the stage of the DNC and is now all over TV doing the same. Nice." Well, for more on all of this, CNN senior reporter for media and politics, Dylan Byers, joins me from Los Angeles. Good to have you with us. This is a story that surfaced back on Thursday when the Khans addressed the Democratic National Convention. It's now 5 days later. Is Trump digging his own hole?
Yeah, he absolutely is. And I would say there's a pretty simple and bipartisan playbook for dealing with the families of fallen soldiers. You honor them, you comfort them. What you don't do is try to attack them and pick public fights with them. And look, Donald Trump has very often thought that if he just goes after his criticizers and anyone who is speaking ill of him, that he can somehow outlast them in the news cycle, that he can somehow rally support among his base and sort of dominate the news cycle. That's not what's happening here. What's happening here is the news cycle is dominating him. And as you said, it's been dominating him for 5 days. Obviously, he's on shaky ground here when you get into the issue of veterans, of fallen soldiers. And it's a problem that could continue to dog him for the rest of the week.
And Dylan, Khan, of course, called on all Republicans to disavow Trump. We are seeing a lot of prominent Republicans, even Trump's own running mate for vice president, at odds with Trump on this issue.
That's true. And look, since the day that he announced his candidacy, Donald Trump has sort of been pushing the boundaries with his Republican colleagues and cohorts. And this is really, you know, when we look back on 2016 and the 2016 presidential campaign, it's really going to be a question about the Republican Party and where the Republican Party stood with or against Donald Trump. Now, there have been many things that Donald Trump has said over this 12-month period that have earned condemnation from other Republicans. But of course, now that he is the nominee, we're seeing a lot more trepidation. Now, on the one hand, you have House Speaker Paul Ryan. You even have Donald Trump's own running mate, Mike Pence, coming out with statements that seem to be at odds with what Donald Trump is saying here. But they have yet to issue, and of course, his own running mate won't do it, but prominent Republicans, many of them still have yet to issue a sort of robust condemnation of what he said. And again, at the end of the day, I think this is really going to be a question about how the Republican Party is branded and how it's seen in the eyes of the American voting public.
And of course, Trump does find himself at the center of controversy quite often, and more often than not, it doesn't affect him in the polls. Will he again come out of this unscathed?
Well, you're absolutely right about that. Somehow he seems to be Teflon. I mean, he's upended all the conventional wisdom about politics and what should tank or be, you know, suicide for a candidate. This is a very tricky issue for him because it does have to do with the military. It does have to do with the men and women who have sacrificed for this country. No issue is sort of closer to the hearts and minds of the American people, and certainly for a very long time to the Republican Party. Normally, the issue of soldiers and those who have sacrificed in the armed services, that's really been an issue that the Republican Party has owned. If you looked at the convention in Philadelphia for the Democrats, that was really an issue that they came out and tried to own this cycle. So no, I don't think this is one that he ends up winning. I think it's one, like I said, that continues to dog him for some time, and I think it's one that continues to affect him in the polls. And at the same time, that fallen soldier's parents have been making a very convincing case to Trump supporters or voters who are on the fence about Trump why they should abandon Trump and come over to the Democratic Party.
Yeah, they certainly are very well spoken, that couple. All right, Dylan Byers, good to have you with us. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Well, still to come, one of the most brutal rebel groups in Syria trying to rebrand themselves. But what's behind the move? We'll take a look at that in just a moment. Also, thousands of Indian workers in Saudi Arabia are facing a food crisis. The reason why in about 15 minutes.